Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a champion guide for Coldheart, so let's get into it. Alrighty, this is actually the first time that I've ever redone a champion guide. I did a champion guide for Coldheart back a few months ago when I was a newer player because I knew she was a very important hero to get content out for. Coldheart is one of the more popular rares in the game. She's very good early game, mid game, and then she's viable in some certain spots of the end game as well because of some of her kit. So this is actually a re-upload where I'm going to try to go more in depth because I've learned a lot more throughout the months of playing Raid on how to use her effectively and exactly how to kind of extract most of her value. So yeah, I'm going to delete my old Coldheart video, and this is going to be the upgraded champion guide for Coldheart. Alright, so we've got Dark Elves, a rare attack champion down here, and this is Coldheart. So we got a base speed of 94, definitely not great, but it's kind of in the middle for rares. An A1 that attacks 4 times at random, each hit with a 25% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. A2 is an AoE ability on a 3-turn cooldown with a 30% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy debuff for 1 turn. Place a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if the target is under a heal reduction debuff. Then this is what Coldheart is known for, the Heart Seeker ability. It's going to attack 1 enemy, fully deplete the turn meter with a 30% chance extra of inflicting a critical hit. Damage increases according to enemy max HP. So the cool thing about Heartseeker is as you get into the late game, as your enemies have higher and higher HP, Heartseeker is going to scale with that. And the cool thing about this ability is you only need 70% crit rate. So it's very viable to wear crit damage gloves on Coldheart instead of crit rate because it's a lot easier to get her to 70% crit rate than 100. Because remember, all of our damage dealers, like for the end game, it's very imperative to get them to 100% crit rate, so you're getting that consistent, reliable, scaling damage. And for Coldheart, we only have to get to 70 because this is most of her value as a champion, is this Heartseeker ability. Now, not in all situations, like in the Fire Knight, the heal reduction, and also the Spirit Keep, the A1 is very good. And then this is still good. It's a 3-turn AoE that can place poison and decrease accuracy. So it's not like her kit is garbage. It's just the main utility she gets in the end game is typically because of the Heartseeker ability. So, all right, let's go ahead and pull up the grades I have here for Coldheart. I always have one of these little champion infographics down in the video description when I do a champion guide. So we can see here the grades. Campaign is a B. She can be a campaign farmer, but she's not like a meta speed farmer. Clan boss, she's got that 4-hit A1, so she can scale very well with Giant Slayer and do a decent amount of damage, but she's not like meta or anything in the clan boss. And then for the arena, she gets a C+ because she does have, you know, some damage utility, but she's definitely not very good in the arena. And then Dungeons and Faction Wars are both going to get an A because she's very good in both of those scenarios. Now, always important to note, these masteries are kind of what I use her for, and you want to use it as a starting point. You don't want to ever use like a mastery sheet as a be-all, end-all. You need to read them and kind of theory craft how you use the champion and how it will be effective for you. I'll go through mine when I pull up the masteries on Coldheart and explain why. Also, the optimal sets here. Coldheart can really be viable in a lot of different sets, but speed, crit rate, and crit damage are typically her most important stats. I'll explain that more when I pull up my Coldheart here. Alrighty. Let's go into champions. And the first thing you'll notice right away is that I have 3 Coldhearts, and it's because of a strategy I'll show you. There's a spider nuking strategy where I can defeat Spider 20 in like 18 or 19 seconds, and it's very consistent. It's a great way to farm silver and farm jewelry and complete events and stuff like that. So I have a triple Coldheart strategy for that. I'm working on another strategy that will do it in 20 seconds on auto. That one is currently manual because of how Coldheart's like AI works, so you have to do it manually in that setup the way that I do it. There is a way to do that strategy on auto, but it requires a different kind of gearing, lots more speed, stuff like that. But so my main like dungeon farmer, like Fire Knight general Coldheart is this one right here. You'll see that's why she has 35,000 HP, and the other ones are just glass cannons. They have, you know, 24 and 26, and she's all the way up at 35. So she has a little bit more toughness, a little bit more sustain. She's also got the 202 plus to crit. The other ones don't have quite as much. So she's got, this one has the best gear, and you'll see right away that I've got broken sets on her. Now, the cruel set is very good because it's going to ignore defense, which is amazing for Coldheart. Like, Savage set, which I don't think I had on the sheet, but Savage set is very good on her because it ignores defense, and Cruel is also very good because it ignores defense. Attack, that is one thing I want to talk about. Attack is not as good on her as you would think, so you can honestly go with like an HP chest. I did some testing off camera, and you know, had a Coldheart with like 3,000 attack and a Coldheart with like 2,000 attack, and all other stats the same, and there was basically no noticeable damage in her Heartseeker ability. So it mainly scales off of enemy max HP. I think attack either has no effect or very little effect, because I was playing with the attack numbers and leaving everything else the same, and on her Heartseeker the damage seemed not to change at all. I couldn't notice any change. So if attack does affect Heartseeker, it's not by very much. Now, attack does affect the A1 and the A3, but like I said, most of her utility comes out of Heartseeker, so more important to get crit rate, crit damage, and ignore defense on our Coldheart, which frees us up to go for a little sustain on our chest and stuff like that. Instead of having to go with attack, we can get HP or defense or something, depending on the comp you're going for and the gear you got. And you'll also notice I'm able to go with crit damage gloves. And so when we get our Coldheart, we want to be 15 plus 55, because that's going to give us 70% crit. Heartseeker gives us the extra 30, and we're at 100. So as long as we can get a 70% crit, you've got a good Coldheart. And what makes that so cool is we can go with crit damage gloves, and it makes her damage insane. And obviously, you want an accuracy banner if you're going to be relying on her, like in the Fire Knight, and to reset the turn meter of the Fire Knight and the Spider and stuff like that. Turn meter reduction needs accuracy for it to land. She does also have the AoE attack that lowers accuracy, but mainly people are worried about her landing the turn meter reduction and the heal reduction like in the Fire Knight. So accuracy banner, not a bad idea. And if not that, honestly, you might as well go with like HP or something, because the attack doesn't seem to really help her Heartseeker ability. Obviously, crit damage we're gonna want in almost every scenario with Coldheart, and then we're just looking for like percent stats on our rings. So yeah, that's kind of the logistics behind the gear. You'll see I have a couple broken sets because it's mainly just important to get as much crit rate and crit damage as I can to get the most value out of my Coldheart. And I'll actually show you, well, let me pull up the Masteries first and explain. All right. So here are the Masteries I went with, and you'll hear a lot of people in the community say you should go with Helm Smasher, because when you get to hitting for these ridiculous numbers, and you're farming the end levels of dungeons, like level 20s and stuff, Helm Smasher is great. I totally agree. But the problem I had with Helm Smasher is it's a 50-50 chance. And when I'm setting up a spider nuking strategy, I want to eliminate as much RNG as I can. I don't want to have a scenario where, oh, well, all three of my Coldhearts didn't proc Helm Smasher, so now I failed. Like, I didn't want to run into that. So I wanted damage I could count on, and damage I could count on is crit damage. So that's what I went with on my Coldhearts. That's what I like to have. Obviously, if you're gonna use your Coldheart in the clan boss, you're gonna want to go, you want to go with Giant Slayer, because she has that multi-hit A1 that's gonna hit the clan boss 4 times, and it's gonna scale really well with Giant Slayer. So if you do use your Coldheart, I typically only see that in the early to mid game. But yeah, if you're gonna be using Coldheart against the clan boss, definitely go with Giant Slayer. If not, like especially if you're gonna be going for like a nuking strategy, something you need to be consistent with, I would go with Flawless Execution. If you're just using her for like dungeon utility, you're not worried about like a specific nuking strategy, then Helm Smasher works great for her. And obviously, we're going to go down the support tree for the accuracy, the Lore of Steel, and the Master Hexer. Alright, so now let's go ahead and show you this nuking strategy that I have for the Spider. It's probably what she's like most notably used for in the end game, is these kind of like nuking end game Spider strategies. So it basically revolves around somebody, you know, debuffing the Spider with like decreased defense and weaken, and then you know, your Coldheart's just bursting it down with their Heartseeker ability. So we'll see here, boom, it hits for 1.8 million, 1.6 million, and 1.5 million. So we're able to nuke down Spider 20 in 20 seconds with a comp that has 3 rares and 1 epic. There are substitutes for Dracomorph that you can kind of make the strategy work, but that's probably like the most famous area that Coldheart is used in, and it mainly revolves around just getting her as much crit damage with 70% crit rate to stack with that high enemy HP of the Spider, and her Heartseeker will hit for like 1.6 million, 1.7, whatever. I've seen it go up to 2 million. So that is that. Let me also show you, since this is a Coldheart guide, I'm going to show everything. I'll show you what she's capable of farming the campaign. I ran this like once or twice off camera. I think it's typically about 35-40 seconds. I don't have any food, so it'd probably be like 50 to 55 seconds. So she's able to do it, but she's definitely not what you're gonna want to use to farm the campaign. Your best bet would probably be to use your like starting champion over Coldheart. But she definitely is capable, and she's actually going faster than I thought she would. She was able to one-shot that second wave. And you can see that Heartseeker only hit for 20k because that enemy has a low max HP. But that Spider that has huge HP, it hit the Spider for 1.7 million or whatever. So 1.7 million versus 20k. So you can see that the damage mainly scales off of crit damage and enemy max HP. Alrighty, and also she is very good in the Fire Knight. I will show you, that's probably her best dungeon in general, just in terms of like not having to cheese it and just general utility. Now, when you have multiple Coldhearts, the best way to be able to check which one you're using, because people run into that a lot. They're like, oh my god, I have 3 Coldhearts, I don't know which one to put in the Fire Knight. You hold down the click. So hold down the click, go total stats, and now we can see what we're working with. Remember my Coldheart with 36,000 HP? I know that's the one that I built for general dungeon utility, so now I know I have the right one up here. That's a big trick to know if you're a raid player, is being able to hold on to a champ, like hold down left click, and then you'll be able to pull up their stats, so you can kind of differentiate and remember which one's which. So, the reason that Coldheart is so good against the Fire Knight is because she has an A1 that's going to hit 4 times. We have to hit the Fire Knight's shield 10 times. So the fact that she's going to hit it 4 times by herself on her A1 is just paramount in order to get that shield down. She also places heal reduction, and the Fire Knight will heal himself, so placing that heal reduction is huge. Then on top of that, her Heartseeker will do a good amount of damage and reset his turn meter. Alrighty, I decided to go ahead and fast forward to the boss fight so you can kind of see how it goes down and why Coldheart is so good against the Fire Knight. Now, the unfortunate thing is her AI will sometimes do that Heartseeker and just slam it into the shield where it does nothing. While the Fire Knight has that shield up, you can't place any debuffs or do any sort of like CC effects or anything to him. So she just essentially wasted her ability there. If you manual the Fire Knight, it's a lot easier to beat it. It's kind of a tricky one to do on auto because champions will slam their abilities into the shield and completely waste them. So, but you'll see here, she actually lost her counterattack. So, yeah, it's not going to get placed. So she won't counterattack with her 4-hit A1. And I actually, even though I have an HP chest on her, she will fall over sometimes. So that's the Arbiter's role here, is to revive my Coldheart and kind of pick her up when she dies. Because even with having her with like 36,000 HP, she can die sometimes against the Fire Knight on stage 20. And there you'll see Coldheart place the heal reduction, which is pretty good versus the Fire Knight. It's going to help us prevent him from healing and recovering that HP. Boom. So now you'll see the Coldheart counterattack. 4 hits. So she synergizes very well with a counterattack comp like this, which is usually pretty paramount in completing those final stages. So Coldheart's going to pair very well with that. And there's the Heartseeker. We see that it decreased the turn meter and really chunked down the HP of the Fire Knight. So between the 4-hit A1, the heal reduction, and the turn meter reduction, and the chunking of the HP, that's kind of what makes her so good against the Fire Knight. Oh, yeah, he actually barely lives. So now we gotta burst down the shield again, because he just barely lived by a sliver. But there we go. That wasn't too bad. Alrighty, and I will show you just for the meme of the video. I'll show you what she hits for against an ultra. What should I pull out here? Let's go here. And remember, I don't know which one to put in. It's probably the most recent one, but let's go ahead and check. And yes, that is the right one. So let's see what her Heartseeker will hit the ultra clan boss for. Okay, so we placed decreased defense and weaken. Now they're going through their counterattack rotation. And then we get our Coldheart. Let's go Heartseeker. 212,000. So we can see that it's capped. So obviously the Coldheart would hit the clan boss for like, you know, 20 million or something, but it's capped in the clan boss scenario because she hit the spider for like 1.8 million or something. So obviously the clan boss has a lot more HP than the spider, but I wanted to see kind of just what she would hit it for as a testing point, because I've never really used her against the clan boss, so I did it live here. Hitting for 212 is pretty low. Means she's not really going to be that great in the end game against the clan boss. I mean, I guess she's usable because if she gets a bunch of Giant Slayer procs off of her A1 and stuff, she's not garbage. But I was hoping that would hit for like 350 or 400k. We can see the cap kind of prevents it from scaling up into the millions of damage like it would if it was a similar scenario to the spider. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through this fight, and then we're gonna pick it up on the other side where I'm gonna rank Coldheart live in game and go through all the reviews. Alrighty, I decided to kind of pick it up at the end of the clan boss match here. Just for fun, I'll show what the Coldheart did, but do remember, I don't have her with Giant Slayer. She would have done a lot more damage if I had her in Giant Slayer and had her optimized for the clan boss. So we can see she did 1.4, you know, keeping it respectable without having Giant Slayer. My team did a lot less having her instead of Martyr, but if I had Giant Slayer on her, she probably does 2.5 million. So it wouldn't have been that bad, but definitely not like end game meta or anything because of that cap on Heartseeker, kind of, you know, and the fact that she doesn't place any like super crucial debuffs like weaken or defense down or decrease attack or anything, or any sort of like buffs for her allies, kind of really make her stale in terms of like end game utility against the clan boss. But yeah, alrighty, I said I would go over her in-game reviews, so let's go ahead and do this here. I like to look at the artifacts. I disagree with this wholeheartedly. This is pretty bad recommendations. We only need to get 70% crit rate on her. Like, I guess in the early game when you're struggling to get to that 70%, the crit rate set is okay. In terms of like end game optimal sets, crit rate probably not what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be wanting like crit damage and like, you know, savage or cruel, something like that. And also, like, instead of offense, maybe even like some sustain or some speed or something. But yeah, all right, so clan boss 2, Fire Knight 5. She's got that multi-hit A1. Spider, she's good like end game for some strats. I'll give her a 5. Arena offense, She does have an AoE, but no, she's definitely like not good there. Spirit Keep, she's got the heal reduction. I'm actually gonna give her a 5 heal reduction on the A1. Minotaur 4, Dragon Lair 3, Arena Defense, yeah, 1, Campaign 2, Ice Golem like 3. I mean, not great, not terrible. Magic Keep, she doesn't really remove a shield or anything. So 2, she's not really that great there. Void, she's all right. 3, Force, probably better to get Helm Smasher there to ignore defense. The Force doesn't have a high HP, so she's not going to hit him super hard. So yeah, he's a low HP champ, so she doesn't really scale with our Heartseeker very well. So I'm gonna give her a 2 there. So yeah, you can see that her utility is kind of like really good or not good at all, and it's basically revolving around how much utility she can get out of her Heartseeker ability. It's the main utility of her kit is this ability right here. It's kind of what she revolves around in terms of getting value in the game. So yeah, it's gonna kind of do it for this video on, you know, my 2.0 guide on Coldheart. She's one of the more interesting and more discussed and more universally used in the early game, mid game, end game, and very accessible to a lot of players. I know it can be tough to get her. You can only get her out of void shards. It took me, and I have these polls chronicled like on video and on stream, it took me almost 200 void shards to get my first Coldheart. So exceedingly bad luck. You know, you should hopefully get a Coldheart within, you know, 20, 30, 40 void shards. It took me almost 200. So it took me months to get my first Coldheart. But yeah, you know, hopefully this video helped you if you have a Coldheart and you were kind of looking for some insight on building her. And definitely let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.